What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Everyday Witness. We are back, season 2. We love it here, but we have a really cool opportunity today because this episode is actually with someone who works with me at this church. He is the one and only new student minister for Broadmoor Baptist Church, and he goes by the name of Michael Van Gorp. Michael, appreciate you coming on, man.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
So, kind of give us a rundown. Where are you from? How did you come to Broadmoor? Because you've only been here for what, about 4 or 5 months now?
Not even 3.5, 4
Yeah,
months.
kind of give us a background where you're from and everything, and also kind of how you came to be at Broadmoor a little bit for those who don't know.
For sure. Yeah, grew up south of Houston in a town called El Campo. It's kind of the sports guy. Played baseball, football. Also was in the band. Did all kinds of different things. So I think the way my friend group we talked about it was we're really good at a lot of things, but not really great at anything. That's kind of how I grew up. But grew up, wanted to play baseball, but God had other plans. Kind of intervened in my college life, and from that began to lead me to go into ministry, and have had different stops along the way. Part time at small churches in the middle of nowhere, all the way to got to Conroe, Texas, at First Baptist Conroe, which is where I was before here, and I had been serving there for a little over 5 years, almost 6 years, and really felt God kind of leading me to something different. And it was just in the middle of that season of prayer that got approached by some people that knew of Broadmoor, and I barely knew where Shreveport was on a map, to be honest. But just through some conversations and some prayer, didn't really know that this was going to be the direction that God was going to take me. But through that time, the Lord really began to speak to me and lead me to understand that this was the place that He had for me.
So, that's really cool to hear, and we're glad you're here. I mean, I know I've personally been humbled to be a part of y'all's ministry and help y'all out a little bit with volunteering and everything. Yeah. It's kind of cool to see how you do ministry too, because I feel like it's definitely interesting to see how everybody does ministry, because not everybody does it the same. No. And obviously, coming from working at different churches for the past almost 7 months at this point, I've kind of seen how every student minister has their own little thing. Yeah. So it's definitely cool to see how you've started to change around how Broadmoor looks for student ministry and how it's impacting their lives as a whole for the students.
So just to what you were talking about, I think everybody has their own background and where they come from, and the different voices and different influences that have spoken into them, and that kind of leads them to shape how they do ministry. And so, like you said, everybody's got a little bit different flavor. I think the main thing is we want to see lost people come to know Jesus, and we want to see people that know Jesus walk with Him and be disciples of Him for their entire lives. And so,
absolutely.
And I think within that, there's a lot of different flavors in how we approach that. So
I love that flavor aspect, because it's definitely different, because it's like Guy Fieri a little bit. It's like he adds a little flavor to everything. And in the same way, like us, student ministry people, like we love to add our little thing, whether it's we're really hype, but we jump up with them during worship, or maybe it's we're a little more laid back and we just go hang out with people and like just have one-on-one conversations with them. Like everybody has that little thing. It's really cool to see kind of like how everybody does it, because it just makes that student ministry that you're a part of so much more unique.
Yeah, well, that's the body of Christ. Like God's gifted us all differently. He uses all of us in our unique ways to build the body up. So, like you said, there's the hype guys, there's the behind the scene guys. But God uses all of that to fulfill His purpose of making disciples.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Well, obviously, we heard a little bit of your backstory, but obviously, being on a Christian podcast, I'm curious to know kind of where your walk with Christ started and kind of how you came to be into it, and then also kind of where it's led you today, if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah. So I think for me, my Christian journey started. I had semi-Christian parents, I call it, just in the fact that I grew up in a culturally Christian household. So Jesus was a part of our conversations. It was kind of a known, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time in church, or just whenever it was convenient. And so we were always busy running, doing things. So church wasn't always the big thing. But my journey with Christ started when I gave my life to Him in 7th grade. I had come to that realization. I'd been struggling with some things really seeking out answers in life, and the Lord met me there in those moments. Some late night moments where I was just kind of crying out for answers, and understood my sin, understood my separation from God because of my sin, and my need for Christ to come and save me, to redeem me. And so I gave my life to Christ. Was baptized in seventh grade. But the church I grew up in, they didn't do a really good job of discipling, and so I kind of tell people it's like I was born again, but like a new baby. I was kind of left on the doorstep of the firehouse, so to speak, and I was kind of orphaned there, and so it didn't really grow in my relationship with Christ. It was just kind of stagnant. So I had that assurance of Christ, and I knew that in my life, but didn't really know what it meant to walk with Him. And so it wasn't until sophomore, junior year, kind of in that season, that we got a new youth pastor at our church, and all of a sudden he began showing up at my football games and baseball games, and taking an interest in me. There were some other people. My assistant baseball coach got me involved in playing in the worship team at church and different things. So just through these different people investing in me, really showed me, oh, there's more to this than just getting baptized and being good. There's a whole amazing journey of following Christ and what that looks like on a daily basis. And so that kind of began, still continued to grow. I didn't really, at that point, ministry wasn't a thing for me. I was like, maybe when I get old, I'll like teach a Sunday school class. That was my thinking at the time. But college was when that aspect of things really took off, where I was like, I'm not really feeling God move in this direction or that direction, and I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And it was heard His voice speaking to me that, well, I've called you to ministry. So that began that kind of whole journey.
No, that is really cool to hear. I feel like everybody who does ministry has it's different. Like I talked about already with the flavor of the student ministry, like just people in general, but like everybody's calling happens at a different time. Like for me, mine happened senior year of high school, the day I got baptized, when my dad was actually speaking at Broadmoor Wild Week, when we used to do it all together, and I got baptized the day before by him with my brother at the same time, and he had talked about, if any of you feel called to ministry, stand up. And I don't know what came over me. I just whoa. I felt like a little something. It was like when somebody pinches you and it's like, oh, auction, I'll pay for more.
Yeah.
And I felt that pinch. I was like, oh, I stood up, and I didn't realize I stood up until I looked at my dad. He looked straight at me, and I started smiling. He looked at me. He had to look away, I'm pretty sure, because I think he was smiling too. Yeah. But we did that, and I talked with a good guy, and he helps out still. His name is Richard, and love that guy to death. He influenced me and encouraged me so much because he saw the care I had for those around me, and how I was just so in love with the idea of being a part of this ministry. And that's kind of where it took off. And then ever since then, I mean, you kind of know this story because we've talked about it. I've served at Broadmoor as a student intern. I served in Concord this past summer as a student intern. I served at New Beginnings in Longview as a student intern this past semester. And the future, we don't even know what's going to happen yet, but
Sure.
There's some good opportunities for me to also keep interning and also possibly work at a church soon. So you never really know what's going to happen. But for me, there's that call to ministry thing, because I've heard so many different aspects of it for everybody. It's just so cool to kind of see where you're at too. So.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note too, if you're a follower of Christ, you're called to ministry.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a ministry. We're all called to go and fulfill the Great Commission. Whether that's if you end up being a teacher or a lawyer or whatever God calls you to do vocationally, and then just that idea of jumping in and God moving in our lives for that call to vocational ministry is something different. Like you said, it was for you. It was just that one moment of oh, that's me. And I think for me, I ran from it, for a while. And I don't think I ran from it because I didn't want it. I think I ran from it because I didn't recognize it. And then it took me a while to really understand and hear God's voice in that.
That is really cool to hear. Well, guys, obviously with the new season, we started doing themes for our episodes, not just the stories. I know y'all like them, but I thought it'd be more fun to kind of tackle some issues that we deal with on an everyday level. But this week, I also wanted to talk to him about another issue, and that's the issue of, or the idea of leadership. And for me, leaders have been a huge part of my life. I mean, I've had Caleb Nichols as my student minister for the majority of my high school career, and he was a huge leader and influenced me in so many tremendous ways. And all the churches I've worked at, the jobs I've done, and everything, and even back when I was at ETBU, there were so many people who were leaders in my eyes that helped lead me in a way that is truly just so profound, in a way that it was built on Christ, but also in the idea of having a relationship with that person, guy or girl, just being able to relate to them and have talk with them about the issues I was going through and everything. But obviously, leadership is a weird thing to talk about because there are good leaders and then there are bad leaders. So I kind of wanted to ask you, like, what if you had to come up with a definition of leadership, what would you say that leadership is?
Just in the simplest terms, leadership is servanthood. I think when you, I think with any of those kind of questions, we should ask Scripture. You know, what is leadership? What does Scripture say about leadership? And when you go to the Scriptures over and over again, especially when you look at the life of Jesus, he calls his disciples over and over again. If you want to be the top dog, if you want to be a leader, if you want to be someone who's following after me, then you're going to serve others. You're going to serve one another. We see that played out right in the Last Supper as Jesus comes and they're all sitting around the table and they all arrive in the upper room. And then what's the first thing that needs to happen? It's the washing of the feet, right? It's the servant's job, and then Jesus takes on the role of the servant in that moment and serves them by washing their feet. But that's just a precursor to how he ultimately serves us by laying down his life for us on the cross. And so, yeah, if I had to give just a simple definition of what it means to be a leader, I would say it's the conscious effort to serve others. And so it's more than just doing a job. It's more than just going like, oh, I can do that. But it's the idea of I'm going to take responsibility for the people around me to serve them and put them above myself. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Leadership is in a nutshell. That's awesome. Where at least where it has to start.
No, absolutely. I think the idea of God. The verse said, I don't know it off. I need to get better at this. But the verse itself says, for the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. I got to work on figuring out where that is in the Bible. Again, that's like the second episode in a row I've done that. Y'all got to keep me accountable. But it says that, and it's like, for the Son of Man. The Son of Man. Like, we're not just talking about, like me or you or Jonathan
the
or Philly.
Prophesied Messiah.
Like, this is the top, like you said, the top dog. And he is literally the man. Like Aloe Black, the man, on the man, on the man, on the man. Like all that. He's literally the one. But it says he did not come to be served, but to serve. Like, he didn't come down here to be like, oh, I'm going to give you this. Oh, I'm going to give you that. I'm going to give you eternal life. You don't got to do nothing back, which is great. But he came to serve us. Like you said, whether it was the washing of the feet, even with the miracles that he did, the healings, the feeding of the 5,000, the prophecies fulfilled, all of that stuff. Like, he came to serve us and ultimately serving us by dying on the cross, like you said. And to give his life as a ransom for many, like we already talked about, it's just like the most profound way to put servitude out there, or servanthood out there. Because, like, for us today, it'd be like, oh yeah, we hold the door open for a sweet little lady, or we help people, or we be there for our friends when they go to sporting event, or like when they're in a sporting event, or when they're going through hard times, like showing up and either calling or texting and just being there for that person. Like, it's obviously different now, but like, we see kind of how Jesus laid down the foundation and the framework of servanthood. And now we get to see kind of how it's evolved in a way to the point where now in our normal daily lives today, how servanthood can still be just like what Jesus did.
Yeah. So. And we have to be careful, because I think for leadership, especially in the Christian context, even when it comes to serving in ministry, the temptation is to go, okay, now I have a title, now I have a role, now I have a position. So like, let's say someone elevates you, and now you get to sing in the worship team, or you get to do, you're the leader of the tech team, whatever it is, or you're the student minister, and some you get this title, and you think, okay, now I have this title, now I'm a leader, and now I need people to respect me and follow me and do all this, and it's backwards from it's what the world says, right? Jesus is telling when one of my favorite stories about this is when the disciples are coming to Jesus and going, "Hey, who's going to be at your right hand and your left hand? Like basically, who's going to be your top dogs? Who's gonna be your number one and number two guys that you rely on?" And Jesus goes, "Hey, you don't know what you're asking for." But what they were asking for was to be elevated in position. And Jesus is like, "Hey, why are we worried about this when we're supposed to just be serving the people?" And so that's I think we have to be really careful, especially when we serve in ministry or even in the church, just in a volunteer way. That leadership is not about position, but it's about serving others. It always has to come back to that.
No, and I think that's a great way to put it. The idea of being a leader, but being willing to serve not only the people you work with, but those that you do while you're doing your job. And I think it's a really cool aspect of that. But obviously, like I said earlier, though, there are good and bad leaders. Do you happen to have like a story where you've kind of seen both play out? Good leader, bad leader, possibly.
I mean, honestly, bad leaders are good leaders. They're just leading in the wrong direction, right? So I think there's a little bit of both in all of us. I would say in all of my experiences in serving in church life, I've served under lots of different pastors, lots of different people, and I've experienced really great pastors who lead well in some areas and then they struggle in other areas. And so I think it's just it's knowing we always can work and be better. One of like there's a couple of churches ago was at First Baptist New Braunfels, and one of the things that pastor did, there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of things they do well, a lot of things they do not well. That's for all of us. But one of the things that stuck out to me was every Wednesday night we had a meal at the church for all of our families to come before we did our Wednesday night programs. And he was the one with a rag and a squirt bottle. And as people got up, he would pick up their trays and clean off the tables. And that was his way of serving the families in our church and being there and doing something that, I mean, he's the pastor. He's got his nice clothes on, right? Long dress shirt, long pant, all the things. And he's got his sleeves rolled up and he's out there cleaning up trash. And just kind of stuck out to me that here he is, instead of being behind the scenes and just studying for a lesson or whatever, he's out there serving the people. And I've seen that over and over again. I think some of the more these are all examples from church life, I guess, but the more as church leaders and pastors that we get too far behind the scenes and remove ourselves from our people, the more that we're going to lack in our leadership. We have to know our people and serve our people. And if we're not doing that, then we're losing our ability to lead.
I really like that. I've never thought about it that way, actually. You had me stumped there for a second. I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared for that. Wow, that's actually I like that. I really do like that. That might be that might be what I put in the reel.
I mean, if we don't know our people, then how can we serve them?
No, I think that's a great way to look at it. I mean, we had talked about it not even 20 minutes ago before we started this, like the idea of being there for the students is the greatest thing that we can do as people in student ministry, because when they see that we care about them by showing up to their sporting events or being there for their dance competitions or their shows, or I don't know what else there is, but
all the things,
or everything, when we show up for people, it shows this idea of we care for them, and this idea of relatability, we were there, and if something cool happens in there, we'll be like, oh yeah, I was there when you scored that goal, or you blocked the crap out of that ball, or everything like that. And we get to have this idea of relatability with them, and we remember that, and that's a memory that we make with those kids, and those kids or students, I don't know, people are weird about those things now, but those ideas and memories that stick with the students are the things they remember the most about high school, because they're not going to remember, oh, what meal did we have Wednesday night before we went there? Was it meatball subs or was it nachos? No, they're going to remember the conversation they had with their student pastor when he showed up to their game and they recognized him.
Right. And it's not a tool to use. It's I love you.
No, I think that's absolutely correct.
It's not like, hey, I'm trying to show up so that I can like win something, win you over. It's no, like I literally love and care about you. That's why I'm here. And it's not just you, but it's this person, it's this person. And like we were talking earlier, is like I need to know. I love Paxton. There you go. But like I love Paxton and I care about him and I want God to move and shape his life and I want to see him shine for the Lord for the rest of his life. And so like that's gonna lead me to pray for you. That's gonna lead me to serve you. That's gonna lead me to lay down my time and my effort and everything just to be there for you so that I can see God move in you. And then that's the attitude I take to every single student, because that's ultimately what we're called to do as shepherds, right? That's the leadership. As shepherds we take care of our flock, and we feed them grass, yes, but then we also keep them from this, and we spend time with them, and they need to know our voice, and it's how it all works with the leadership factor.
No, I think that's great, and it kind of relates to a song that I've always thought about. It's like, oh, what is it? I don't know the name of the song off the top of my head. I need to get better at this too. But no, it said like he left the 99 for the one. Yeah. Like that idea that like he left the 99. It could be 99 people that we know or that we don't know, but it wouldn't matter.
The reckless love.
Yes, what it is.
There it is.
Thank the Lord. But no, like the idea that like he left the 99 for the one. He didn't like obviously he still cares for the 99.
For sure.
But he chose to follow the one.
Yeah.
He didn't choose to just like, oh, you can go get eaten by wolves and all that. But like he chose to leave the flock to care for the one.
Absolutely.
I just think like in my head, I'm like, that's just like the idea that like we should all have as Christians. Like there's always going to be that one that we see every day. And whether it's in our family or our friend group at school or like something, there's always that one person that we know that if they died today, we're not sure if they believe in Christ, and we're not sure if they're going to go to heaven. And for me, like me personally, I know people still at ETBU that I pray for daily that I know don't know the gospel, and that I pray find it, because those people have been a huge part of my life, whether it's on the court or whether it's in BSM or Student Foundation or anything that I did at ETBU. Like they were there, and I hope that they find the gospel, because I don't want to go to bed knowing that if they died tonight, they still don't know where they would go. And I think that's kind of the idea that we as Christians need to realize, is that if we don't start thinking like that in front of everybody, like what are we doing? Like that could be our ministry. Understanding that we as Christians should be going out to find these people that do not know Christ and bring, I'm not saying go invite your entire school, which is great to bring an entire school to student ministry. We have the room for it, but like just inviting those who really you do not know the gospel, and allowing them, being intentional and showing them that like, hey, I care for you so much. I might not know you, but I care for you so much and pray for you so much that I want you to come to church, whether it's Wednesday night or even if it's Sunday or even if it's a small group or whatever, an event. Just knowing that they are known and seen by someone that they don't know and that cares for them, something's going to click for them, whether it's instantly or whether it's weeks or months down the road. They're going to remember that.
Yeah. And
it's going to be like, I need to know what this is about. And then they'll show up, they'll see it, and boom, the Lord you plant the seed, the Lord makes it grow. As simple as that. But it's really cool. No, I really like that though. I really like that. But no, obviously leadership as a whole though, obviously good leaders, bad leaders, but like the idea of leadership is also kind of, I feel like in our world today, especially with, I don't want to get political because I hate politics and they're dumb and stupid. But I feel like definitely in the world today, we see how kind of politics can also hinder our view of leadership. Because like, when first thing you think of a leader, most people will say, oh, the president, because he leads our country. Sure. And
title.
Yeah, exactly. The title of leadership. Like you're the senator, you're the representative of state, you're the president, the vice president, the secretary of I don't know what it is. I forgot half the stuff from civics. Sorry, mom. But the idea that like this title, it tends to get into people's heads because like we've seen kind of how bad leaders in history have kind of used their title to their favor. Like I don't want to get really drastic, but I mean Hitler. I mean
Sure.
he used his
Yeah.
entire title to basically wipe out and pretty much the majority of an entire race.
Yeah.
And like we see kind of how those titles can kind of they turn us into something that isn't right.
Yeah. You can be super charismatic. You can have all the ideas in the world. You can be a great speaker, great orator. Someone that can really mobilize people. One of the key factors about being a leader, though, is that there's actually people following you. There's actually people that like if you're heading in a direction, people are heading in that direction with you, and that really takes. I wrote this down but in order to lead people, like we talked about, it's not a title, but it's trust. If I'm going to follow after a leader, I need to know that I can trust them. And the way that we earn trust is love, by loving them, by showing up, by like we talked about. It's living with integrity. That means being true and being true all the time. And then loving with integrity over time. And what that's going to do is that's going to build up trust. And as people trust you, then you earn the right to lead them. And so, like we're talking about being new, right? Being new here at Broadmoor. One of the things that I'm focused on is right now just getting to know people, trying to show up in people's lives and showing them that I love them, focusing on my own walk with the Lord, and so that I'm living a life of integrity. And I know that over time, I didn't expect all the students to be like, "Oh, that's the new guy. Let's just follow him and do whatever he says." But like over time, as I love our students, as I live with integrity, and I do that over time, I hope to earn the right to lead them. And so, you talk about good leaders, bad leaders. Bad leaders will try to force people to follow them. Good leaders will earn it over time.
No, I really like that. I think that's a great way of putting it because I know people that tend to get into student ministry. Some ministers can definitely try to jump right in and start to literally just be like, okay, we're scrapping everything. We're doing everything completely different. I've seen it. And sometimes it does work. But most of the time, you kind of see how
it may work for this long.
Exactly. People tend to see that and they're like, oh, change is fun. Let's try it. And then they try it and they're like, what are we doing? It's like Taco Bell bringing back Cantina chicken. It doesn't make sense. Nobody really likes it except for like the very few. And everybody wants to go back to the nacho fries and Doritos Locos Tacos. Please bring it back. But like the idea of like the change, change takes time. And I talked about that last episode with Asher, one of my good guys who you know now. But we talked about how like change can be good, but change doesn't happen just like that. Change takes time. I mean, you change in your relationship status, you change in your location, whether you're moving or maybe you're done with school or maybe you're in school, you're transferring. Like change takes time. It doesn't obviously it can happen overnight, but true, genuine, honest change, whether it's yourself, in others, or your situation, like it takes time. And throughout that time, you get to learn more about yourself and kind of how that changes you.
Definitely. Yeah, it's that's one of the things coming in. You mentioned change. There's ultimately you see things right away. You're like, hey, I want this to be better for people, but in the long run, it's doing the right things the right way over time, and then you get to, like I said, you get to earn that right to lead people. And when you do it that way, it's done in love. It's done in care. People know that you're. Then when a change needs to happen, people are like, "Oh, of course, you love us. You care about us. You've proven that over and over again. If you feel like the Lord is leading in this direction, then we trust you." And that makes change so much easier.
No, I 100% agree. and obviously change in leaders. I feel like we as Christians, I mean, whether we choose it or not, change is inevitable. And through that change, I know that it says in the Bible, rejoice in the trials, for they produce tribulation. Rejoice in the trials, tribulations, for they produce steadfastness of your faith. And like that idea that like there's a reason we go through changes, whether they're good or bad. Like we go through these changes as people because God is choosing to put us through these situations to turn us into the leaders He knows who we are, who He knows we are, so that we can become the ones He has made us and called us to be.
Yeah,
it's like what we talked about with our calling. Like we're all called to ministry, whatever it may be. Whether you're a coach and that's your ministry, whether you're a minister and that's your actual true ministry. Like all these different aspects of like our calling. Like regardless of where He puts us, there's a reason we're there for the time we are, or whether it's for the rest of our life. We are put there for a reason, and when we find that reason, that's when it's like clicks, and everybody, and then you're just full head over heels for it. And for everybody, it takes time, but when you get to that point where you're head over heels for it, that's when people see that and they see like the true, genuine you. I think that's really cool. So,
well, and if it's you, then you're not having to play this game where you're pretending to be somebody else just to fit the mold. And that's, I've struggled with that. I'm a little bit older for the student minister, I guess. And then I look around me and there's like all these guys that are like 23 and they get to wear the skinny jeans and they have all the, all
I'll
this
stop
stuff.
bringing them, my bad. Sorry, awesome. tough, Asher, Luis, Carter. Don't listen to this.
If that's you, man, that's awesome. But like, I think over time, when you get to know that like this is who I am, and then you lead from that, there's so much freedom in that on the personal standpoint, because you're not trying to pretend to be anybody else. You're just trusting who the Lord has made you. And when you trust who the Lord has made you, and then you walk in that, and you lead from that position, you're not looking over your shoulder to see if someone's out for you. You're not thinking about what everybody else has. You're just able to be content with where God has you, because you fully trust where He's put you.
No, I think that's a great way to put leadership, just to kind of wrap up the idea of leadership. Like, sorry, I had to swallow something. I don't know what that was. Guess I was catching my breath. I don't know. Nice. But like this idea of leadership, and like obviously the idea of servanthood, and that there are good and bad leaders, regardless of where we're at, that everybody leads, regardless of if we realize it or not. We all lead, and whether it's in a bad way or a good way, people will follow that. And the moment we realize that, and if there's one point any of y'all are listening for and kind of going for that, I would say write this down if you can. But like when we understand why people follow, we understand the severity of leadership, if that makes any sense. Like, think about it like this. Ants like to go, they carry the leaves, and they'll make like their ants thing, and they'll bring it to the queen. I don't know how that works still, but like they follow each other though. When one ant goes, the rest follow. And you see like in the cartoons, like if they go one way and someone somebody blocks them, they turn. And when the next ant comes up, he also turns, and they turn and they turn and they turn and they turn, and they follow the leader. In the same way, like we need to be that first ant. We need to pave the way, take that first step, and see who follow, and remind ourselves that there will be those who follow. And when we realize that, we have to make sure we lead them on the right path. Because if we go the wrong way, it's going to be like in the cartoon where there's a bird waiting on the top of where we're going, and he's just going to keep eating and eating and eating until someone realizes, hey, this isn't right, and leads us in the right way.
Yeah.
It's a weird illustration, but like for me, like that cartoon thing just always pops in. It's like it's a line of ants, whether they're picking up something really heavy or they're not even carrying anything at all. They always follow. And it's just like, it's always stuck with me.
Now, the word that comes to mind when you're talking about that is the word vision.
Ooh, I do like.
So that. I think one of the key parts, we know leadership is servanthood. As we serve, we lead by serving. It's going to earn us the right to lead people. But if we're leading people, we got to know where we're going. Like you said with those ants, they know the lead ant knows where it's going. It's going to the food, so the rest of them are following in line, trusting that they're going somewhere. But that also, like you said, we need to know where we're going. And in that, I think because we can't lead people to somewhere we've never been before. Mm-hmm. And so in the in the following Christ sense, it's if I'm not in tune with the Holy Spirit, if I'm not trusting in God, if I'm not seeking Him with all that I have, if I'm not sharing the gospel, if I'm not in the Word of God, how can I ever begin to ask others to go there without me? That's not leadership. And so, from my aspect of leadership with students, it's I need to be doing these things, and then from that, then I can show, okay, this is the vision. This is where I've been. Let me show you how to get there, and then now I know how to get there. And I think that's the other thing. The couple this last week, my family, we got to take a vacation. We never take vacations, but we got to go to Disney.
Really?
Yeah, which was awesome. Boys had a blast. But the one of the things in planning that trip, we drove, and so it's a long trip.
It's a good drive.
It's a
a bit of. I've been on that drive before. It's a bit of a.
It's like 13, 14 hours, whatever.
It's a little while.
But in that, with myself, my wife, a 10-year-old, and a 2-year-old, we're gonna make stops. Yeah. And at those stops, we need to make sure that we're making the most of those stops. And so part of the idea of leading is knowing where you're going, knowing where the destination is, so that you can share with people where the destination is. But it's also the wisdom to know, hey, where are the stopping points, so we can go, hey, let's get this far, let's aim for this, and then let's take a stop and see where we're at. Then let's get to the next stop and the next stop. And then as we lead and as we go, in the wisdom of God, it's how fast do we drive, so that we don't leave people behind, but we bring people with us. And so that's the idea of vision. I'll let you jump in here in just a second, but I was hearing somebody else talk about this the other day, but it's so true. And it's been my experience in ministry at every church that I've been at.
Let's hear it. Come on.
Okay. Everybody's talking about how there's not enough youth pastors. There's not enough people for the ministry jobs out there. And so we end up hiring a bunch of bozos who are out of ministry in 2 years because they were never called. Anyways, the reason why is because the lack of leadership in the senior pastor role at so many churches, and the lack of leadership is vision. I guarantee you, if you go to every senior pastor, most of them will say, hey, we want to reach lost people and make disciples. Cool. But if you ask them, hey, where is this church going? Where is this church going, and where are what are the goals to get there? They can't tell you. And so from my perspective, as serving with that person, not only in my role as leading in the church, but also serving under, as in that's my pastor too, I'm asking, hey, where are we going, so I can tell the students? And they're like, oh, we don't know. And so what that does is that frustrates people in ministry. And then they either get out of ministry, they get burned out because they don't. It's like you're driving in circles because you don't have a destination. Or they go and plant a church that fails in 3 years. Because they weren't called to plant a church. They were just upset with what was going on. And so that would be my last word on leadership in the church is, when it comes to vision lets us all know where we're going so that we can follow.
I really like that. I've always heard the idea of like vision, because like every church has like this, whether it's a sermon series or whether it's like, it's like everybody says a certain statement before they leave from church. Like Broadmoor used to do it, and y'all remember this. For those of my Broadmoor people, like Chuck used to say before every time he would come back up after the worship band got done, he'd be like, yada, 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 don't forget these announcements, blah, 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 blah. And then he would be like, and remember, everyone on, and he'd make us say mission, and he'd say, y'all have a great day. And like, It was the idea of like, that was our calling. And our vision is that everyone be on mission. And it could be anywhere. It could be at McAllister's. It could be at Target. It could be at our house. It could be at school, like whatever it would be. Like that was our vision. And like, it's really cool to see, because like every church has it differently. Like when I was at Concord, they had these bracelets, and I still have, I don't have it on me right now, actually. I don't know why I don't. Probably should put that back on. I think I took it off in the shower or something like that. I don't know. But it says, you are loved and you are sent. And like that was their vision. And at New Beginnings, theirs changed from time to time. But when I was there, the biggest one was called Seek One. And it was seek one person. Then it was seek one follower. Then it was seek one church. And all these things, like it was this vision idea that like we are called to seek out others. And it was really cool because it was different. I'd not been used to it, but like it was also this idea of like expanding their ministry into different areas. And it was kind of cool to see. But like the vision thing, I love because it's huge. Because like you said, when we lose that idea of vision, like what is our church even doing? Like it's just a building then.
We just gather.
No, absolutely. We just gather here every Sunday. Oh, check it. We're like checklist Christians. We'll check it off. Oh, went to B group, went to service, went to lunch, nap time, and all that stuff. Like it's just, and it's a continuous cycle. Wow, it's a continuous cycle, and like that's not what we're called to do. We're called to be constantly in the Word, constantly and going out into the world and having fellowship with those who either believe or do not believe, and it doesn't matter because we're called to be disciples regardless.
Yeah, we got to have a destination, and where are we going? Like I said, it's celebrating the stops that we make on the way, on the journey, because it's not a straight shot. There's stops to make along the journey, and it's knowing as a leader, it's knowing in the wisdom of God when to press the gas and when to let off and slow down and make sure that everybody's along for the ride.
No, and I think that is a great way to end that idea of leadership is that we are called to follow, but we are also called to lead. And this idea that like we're called to serve. That is the biggest thing. Like you said at the beginning, and that's kind of the thing I've been holding on to when we've been talking this hard time, is leadership is servanthood. I remember you saying that explicitly, one word answer, servanthood. When we realize that, we realize the importance of what we do in our everyday lives. And I think that's a great way to look at leadership. But obviously, that's not the only thing I want to ask you. So I'm also curious. Everybody has like a certain part of the Bible, whether it's a passage, a story, a chapter, the entire book. Sometimes I've had that happen, I think once or twice, I can't remember. But or even just a simple verse that's just been with you forever. Like mine's 2 Timothy 1:7, and I changed my chain just to know that, so people actually ask about it. So it's like gospel conversation. It's fun. But everybody has a certain part of the Bible kind of that's stuck to them. I was kind of curious, like, is there a specific passage or verse or chapter that's kind of just stuck with you, whether it's just in your entirety in your faith or whether it's new and it's just like sticking with you? What would that thing be?
Yeah, I think I always go back to Ephesians chapter 2. That's been a in the when I really began to grow in my understanding of the Lord and how He worked in my life to bring about my salvation. And I really began to understand that it wasn't about anything that I did, but it was just about what He did for me. Ephesians 2:8-9. It's not about our works, because if it was, we'd boast about it. But it's just the free gift that God gives to us. And so I think that's a place I always go back to, and I think it's a good reminder all the time. A good reminder for all of us is just to preach the gospel to ourselves every single morning. I think we get in the ideas as Christians where we go, hey, oh, there's the gospel. Or even like we go to church and the pastor's like, hey, I'm going to share the gospel. And we go, oh, how many times have I heard this? But it's like, how many times, like, there could never be enough times that we hear the gospel. It's the greatest news that Christ died for us. And Ephesians 2:8-9 is just that epitome of there's nothing that we could do. It's not about us, but it's about the gift that God gives us. And you can even tack on verse 10 where it talks about how we now He's created for us good works to do, but it's not earning us salvation.
But yeah, like you were saying, sorry.
What's up?
I don't remember. But anyways,
where to cut off?
I don't remember. I think we'll just let it be. I think you put a great point out there, and I think that's great.
Okay.
So, anywho, like every episode now, obviously I have this shoe, and what happened is every person that has been on the podcast this season, mainly just Asher, has signed the shoe, and I had this from camp a while ago, and I thought it'd be cool to kind of remember everything by having every person sign the shoe. So if you like to sign the shoe, I'll close it out.
Absolutely. Nice.
So, but anyways, thank y'all so much for watching. Obviously, it's been a great time hearing from Michael, the Broadmoor student minister, who's been a person who's come into my life recently and been a huge influence in that, and hopefully will be more of an influence as the years go on. But obviously, with big weekend coming up this weekend for my Broadmoor people, we're gonna be a little busy, so no episodes probably for about a week or so. But we really do thank y'all for tuning in today, and thank Michael for being here. It's been a pleasure, obviously, getting to know you better and for y'all to hear about him. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope y'all watch to the end of this because it is pretty cool. And for those of y'all who are interested, we will be videoing a little bit of Big Weekend. So if you're interested to see what God has in store for Broadmoor students, y'all tune in this weekend on Stories Instagram. But make sure to follow us at the Everyday Witness on Instagram and YouTube channel to check out the full videos. But Michael, thank you for being on. It's been a pleasure. And thank y'all for watching. Y'all take it easy. Peace out.